Hey, what's up, everybody? We are live from the AHR 2024 Expo in Chicago, and today's episode we had Dan Clapper and Ken Midgett on from Interplay Learning. Love what they're doing, but they also dropped some knowledge too. Evan, what was your favorite part of that episode?
How to get buy-in from your people when you are introducing training. Incredibly tough to do at times, and it can be so frustrating as a business owner when you're not getting that buy-in from them, because I know you're doing it because you feel like you can help them, but there's this thing that's stuck in the way, and I love that part of the conversation. What about you?
The overall expectations of training, right? When you set these expectations, you create it from the culture, that's going to help out with the buy-in part of things. But the other part of what I love is leveraging their technology of what they're doing. And when you bring in tech into the workplace to be able to augment training, and speaking of augment, it's called augmented reality, and they use it inside of their training. Virtual reality, sorry, not augmented reality. So, no, don't they have the headset?
That's virtual reality.
Oh, what's augmented reality?
Pokemon Go.
Oh, right. There we go. Okay, virtual reality. Then, wow. It's been a long show, 3 days of going. So apologies, everyone, for my faux pas. Virtual reality, because now you can actually experience the things in real life without hindering safety. So it was a great episode, but we'd like to hear from you. Leave a note down in the comments on what your favorite part of the episode was. And of course, a word from our sponsors, because without them, the show wouldn't be possible. CHIIRP, Elite Call, and On-Purpose Media. So Elite Call, they are a U.S.-based call center champion for the home service industries for 20 years, actually. They've been outbounding clients' databases, filling dispatch boards with lucrative service and sales appointments, and boosting memberships like no other. They don't make calls. They actually directly integrate into your CRM, giving you a seamless experience. Don't let your competition get ahead. Let Elite Call connect with your customers and fill your board. You can visit them today at elitecall.net right there.
And we've got CHIIRP. Transform your home service business with CHIIRP, the ultimate automation toolbox. Capture more leads. Connect instantly when skyrocket your sales. CHIIRP integrates seamlessly with platforms like ServiceTitan and House Call Pro, offering automated texts, emails, and even ringless voicemails. Boost your Google reviews and customer loyalty with our proven rehash programs. Schedule your demo today and get an exclusive 25% off your first 3 months. Visit chirp.com/HSR for HVAC Success Secrets Revealed and start boosting your revenue today.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people. Any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk, but it's 9 a.m, so we're going to pass on the beers and stick with the Aquafinas. Get a little bit of rehydration in us for later. Today we have on Dan and Ken from Interplay Learning, and I'm excited to dive into today's topic and what you guys do around training, bringing in VR into training. But before we get into that, the difficulties on training and how you can get buy-in into it, and then we'll talk about some of the fun stuff after the fact. So Ken, Dan, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
No worries.
Nice to meet you.
Who wants to go first with a quick story about how they got into the industry?
I guess I'll take it. So, I started in the industry as a kid. My dad had his own HVAC and plumbing company. So I was, 5, 6, 7 years old, cleaning fit-ins, threading pipe, crawling around basements. And I told him I'm never going to get into the industry. Like, this is terrible. But it kind of grows on you, I guess. And then from there, went to college, dropped out, got a job at the wholesaler. Really did a lot of self-study. Like I really got into training and quickly progressed my career to become a regional for Bosch. Then I was a regional for Daikin. Had some national sales roles. So I've met contractors across the country, and training's my passion. So.
Nice.
That's my quick background.
Yeah. And that's Dan, by the way, in case those were wondering for later. I mixed it up earlier, so don't do that. Ken, how about yourself?
I'm a 46-plus year licensed master plumber. I've been at it a long time. Had 2 service businesses over 25 years. One was new construction, one was service and repair. did plumbing, HVAC, and then an opportunity came up to teach at the secondary level, career and technical education, and I applied thinking I'm never going to get this job. I don't know a day of college in my life. I don't know anything about teaching, and got the job. Super lucky. Took a program that was ready to close to waiting list to get in. Some of the highest completion scores, 100% placement for seniors into the industry. It was really rocking and rolling. I did highly successful. I won 2 national teaching awards, and that kind of catapulted me in the spotlight. Went to work in the tech industry for a little bit, and then Interplay had this opening, and I'd already been a subject matter expert for them, so they knew who I was. And CEO reached out to me. We had a conversation and took it on. Loved it. And my passion is just like Dan's. I just love helping people. Love seeing people be successful. People that say they can't, make them successful.
Yeah. Well, don't forget the 2 national awards for teaching too. Can't leave that out. I think that's an important part. So, cool. So let's transition now into the difficulties in training, and we wrote down really 5 key points to touch on in looking at a plumbing and heating business, or really any business for that matter, but specifically plumbing and heating. In looking at, I guess, point number 1, what do you guys think is the most difficult part of getting training into the workplace?
I think the first part is, I mean, if you think about it, most people expect people to go train on their own time. And like with a lot of talent retiring and younger people getting in the industry and they're less skilled, we have to bring that training in-house.
Right.
So I think that's just like step number 1. As a company, you got to realize that you're not getting a person off the street anymore. You're getting someone fresh or someone new to the industry, or maybe they're 40 or 50 years old and want to transition into the trade. So you just have to start really making in-house training part of your culture.
Right.
I think from an owner's perspective, and like looking at training from a purchase, is that it's not just a line item on a budget, right? There's a lot of value in doing it correctly for growth in a company, reducing callbacks. There's so much ROI, and there's so much unmeasurable ROI. Right. Just culture changes because you're doing things the right way, and your employees respect you for that, and they think that you care about them, and you're not just a number. Right? There's so much of that has changed, and the successful ones that are growing, those people have those cultures in their company.
Right.
It's almost like a culture of expectation around training.
Well, and you have to set that expectation, right? Like at the end of the day, one, I think owners need to understand why it's important, because it's difficult as an owner to say, I'm going to take my tech out of the field for a day, for an hour, for 10 minutes, whatever it is, when I could be making money on that call and instead put them through more training.
Yeah.
It's a difficult decision to make at times, but the reality is the ROI comes back.
And I think that's another part of it, is that business owners are good at being business owners, or they become good at being business owners, right? It's a thing that evolves.
Right.
And they aren't necessarily educators.
Yep.
And you send a group of techs to factory training. Well, you got a level 1 tech, you got a level 3 tech, you have a level 5 tech. Well, the level 5 tech's sleeping in the back of the room.
Right.
The level 3s are probably engaged because they kind of understand what that factory, and the level 1s are lost. They
Right.
have no idea what this person's talking about.
Right.
You do that. Dan and I were having a conversation on the ride over here. You do it at the end of the day. They're exhausted. They want to get home. They don't want to spend another 3 hours training. So making it accessible to them and let them train when they want to train. Just make sure that the accountability measurements are there.
Correct.
So you mentioned the level 1, level 3, level 5. What sort of breakdown, and I guess when you plan out your training for your techs, I mean, some people, I'm just going to train everybody all at the same time. Others say, I'm going to plan this out and say, okay, my level 1s are going to get this, my level 3s are going to get this, and level 5s are going to get this. Where do you see some shortfalls when it comes to planning things into training seminars for your team?
Yeah, well, part of it is what you were just saying before, too. I mean, they want to train their techs. They want them to get all this knowledge, but if I got 5 calls this week that I can make money on, they don't do it.
Right.
So one of the things we recommend is you have to put training on your dispatch software just like it's a work order. Like,
Correct.
It's that important of your job. And we always talk about like the long-term benefits of training. So if you have a career path for them, you know, a level 1, level 2, level 3, like give them a progression of content to go through, it's going to keep them engaged. They're going to retain. They're not going to keep jumping job to job. They're like, oh, I can grow with this company over the next couple of years.
Right, exactly. Like I think a lot of people that own businesses buy training, and they look at it as that they're buying health insurance. Well, you know, here's this health insurance. Here's this 401k plan. It's nice, but you know, what is it really doing for me? Right? They see the value to the health insurance. They see the value to 401k. Well, here's this training. Yeah. Well, what do you want me to do?
Right.
So, but if you take that training and you say, what are your goals? Well, I want to make a double mortgage payment every quarter. Well, here's how you can do that. If you finish this training, you'll be able to have this skill, which will earn you this amount of money, and you can make that payment. Sound like a plan? Good. Let's start it. Let's get it going. So now you have that buy-in from the tech, that now they see the vision, and they see, to Dan's point, they see the overall vision. We were talking this morning that, you know, you might train on something now that changes your career 3 years from now, right? Because you're adding that skill and building value to your own self.
Right. Well, that's that WIFM we were talking about earlier, right? Everyone cares about what's in it for me, not necessarily you, the owner, and, oh, yeah, you just want us to go take more training because you're going to make more money. It's going to help you be more profitable because we have less callbacks. That means nothing to me, right? I need to know what matters to me as a technician.
Right.
Yeah, it's so true. One of the things we hear a lot, too, is just the confidence build, too.
Right.
Like a lot of these techs, they go into houses, they kind of know what they're doing.
Yep.
But when they have access to training where they can start growing their skills, it almost becomes addictive. Like, oh, wow, I went into that job and I figured it out. I didn't have to call my service manager.
Right.
And that's this culture of training you build.
Right.
Well, here's the other thing that it does. You're talking about, we've said it a couple times in calling the service manager, but what about callbacks, right? The amount of callbacks you have from improper training on things. Yeah. And I'm curious to know if you guys have a statistic around that we have a number that we found because we had this conversation yesterday, but I want to know if you guys have a number for every, let's say, hour of training. Do you have an efficiency output on increase of hours or reduction of callbacks?
I think we have a number for the reduction for people who have trained.
Yeah.
It's pretty high too. It's like a 47% reduction in callbacks due to training.
Wow.
That's
significant.
Yeah.
Significant. Well, the number we came up yesterday was for every hour in training, it equals 5 hours in efficiency. Is that, I think, the number?
It was a website that I pulled up randomly in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, you know, a 47% reduction in callbacks, well, that's really double the output, because now you're actually able to run calls that are making money instead of the ones that you have to go fix that are costing you money.
Yeah, not to mention the added wear and tear on the service manager when the callback happens.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, they're wearing that hat. They're wearing that whole hat. They're talking to the customer. They're talking to the tech, and you know that not just the callbacks, but to Dan's point about the confidence side is that when a tech can go out and just do the call and not have to be babysat. Well, I just moved the yellow wire. Now what do you want me to do?
Right.
Put the red one on. Okay, I just did that. I call you back. Move the red one. Now what do you want me to do?
Right.
So if they know what they're doing, that service manager can now work on what they're supposed to be, which is the fiscal aspect and that technician's stats, right? How much are you selling? What's your efficiency? And coaching them instead of training them technically.
Right.
Not saying there's not a place for the service manager to help them technically, but they're overburdened.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and like Billy Stevens talks about the efficiency aspect of things all the time, and in doubling your efficiency, but in ROIs also there's the actual tangible aspect of it, which is the fiscal part, right? Mm-hmm. There's the intangible stuff that goes into what you're talking about, right? And if, let's just say, random sake, you have a billable hours of $200 an hour, and you're paying your guys $50 an hour, random math, and you have 5 guys that all go through a 1-hour training. Well, there's going to cost you $250, but if each one gets an efficiency of 5 hours, what did you just add for extra output to your business?
Right.
$5,000, right? And that's just that. But the intangibles are the things that you talked about there. The service manager can focus on other things. The customer is more happier. You're getting better Google reviews. You're getting better culture. You're getting better hires. You're getting people staying longer. That's the intangible ROI that comes in with training.
Right.
Yeah.
There's also the whole thing of training, before a job. So on the construction side or on the replacement business, right? If you're training a green tech coming up, all the moving parts to a job, and then you take them on the job, And then with a skilled person, they're seeing all those moving parts happen, and they already understand what the principles are, what the steps are. It's dramatically changing the efficiency of that job site, right? So that skilled person's not spending all this time talk, because this green person's coming in knowing what those steps are going to be.
Right.
So it's much less time, right, when you do it that way.
Yeah, we got a term for that. We call it BTJ. So before the job training.
Right.
Instead of OTJ, where most of us, there's a lot of time wasted. And to Ken's point, like a lot of our senior technicians, they're not educators. They might not know the educational process to teach, the refrigeration cycle or something. So a lot of techs in our industry just grew up from word of mouth from other people. So to have some sort of training built in your culture where that foundational knowledge is, and then let your senior techs give the meat and potatoes of what's important.
That's so true. Everybody learns a different way.
Right.
There's all different learning styles, different modalities, and you're asking a senior tech, to train them, when most likely the way they got trained was getting yelled at or something thrown at them,
Right.
because they did something wrong or embarrassed, right? You can't do that with today's workforce, because they'll just go work somewhere else. There's too much competition. They'll work at Amazon for the same amount of money as a green apprentice,
Right.
and they won't have all the hassle.
Right. I'm curious your blend of, and this can go back to when you owned companies, when you worked in companies, the blend of training that you had that was technical versus soft skills versus life skills. I think oftentimes we bring these technicians into the company, they're making more money than they've ever made in their life, but they're still broke at the end of the day because they don't have those life skills, and nobody's ever sat down and taught them how to balance a checkbook, how to put money into savings and all of that. What would be your recommendation around a blend of training for the technical versus the soft skills versus life skills?
That's a really good question. Yeah.
Want me to take it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So something that's really important to us is assessment.
Right.
Like, we talk to service managers all the time. Do you really know the range of skill sets so it could be their technical skill sets, their sales, customer service, a lot of different things, and take the time to have the conversation with each individual to see where they are and what they want to learn too. So I would start the blend with the individualized assessment. If I were to say, 30% soft skills, 30% technical, then I'm not actually looking at the individual skills of a person. So that's how I'd answer that one.
I'm in complete agreement with that. I'm 100% spot on. It's got to be individualized.
Right.
Right. You have people that are just overwhelmingly astute technically. They could take apart that device right there and put it back together again without even blinking an eye. And you have somebody that wouldn't know where a screwdriver is.
Right.
Or they'd break it. Right. But that person that would break it might be the great conversational person. They may have the soft skills, just it's embedded in their personality. They're extroverts, right? They can talk really well. So I think there's that side of it that you have to just measure. And some of it just happens by conversation and a simple ride along. Some of it you have to go deeper, right?
So if you wanted to go deeper on some of those to be able to pull that out for individualized aspects, a lot of people don't know how to do that. Right? They don't know where to even begin because they started a business because they hated their boss, and now they're in this position where they've got a business. Now they got to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So if they were to go back to that and say, okay, well, how can I bring some of that into my business? Where would you point them to?
I think that, to Dan's point, you got to know your techs. You got to build rapport, right? Just like rapport was built with you when you were learning, same thing has to happen on your end. You got to be the rapport builder now, right? And you need to prove to them that they are there not just to make you money, that they actually they value the business, right? So that they understand that it clicks up here with them, right? They understand that point, and then I think once you break down that barrier, you're going to find the floodgates are going to open. You're going to find out everything. Coaching, one-on-ones. Let's role play here. I'm the customer. Tell me what I need to know. That's how you find out about a soft skill. 30 seconds, I know if you got it or you don't got it.
Yep.
Now sell me something you don't know anything about.
Sell me this pen.
Right. To your point, when I had my business, part of the interview was them saying happy birthday to me. And I would immediately know if they were an extrovert or an introvert. If they could not get it, if they could not muster it up, then I know, well, this guy's going to need more, he's going to need more soft skills.
Right.
Right?
I like that. I might put that into our interview process.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they could sing it, right? And even if they sounded terrible, if just that they had the guts to sing it, I know that, well, this person's going to be harder to coach, right? Because they're already ingrained in their communication skills.
Right.
I'd rather have that introvert, right? Because I can mold that person.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the technical side too. So one of the things we hear from service managers across the country, like, we get this resume, they come in the first day, they tell us they have all these skills, I put them in a truck, they go out to the job site, they mess it up. Like,
No, that never happens. What are you talking about?
You're finding out their skills of the jobs they're messing up on, right? So one thing we have at Interplay, we do a skill assessment that takes them through, the top technical skills that they would need. Do you understand, what a multimeter is? How do you turn the dial? Things like that. So I always call assessments, it's not pass or fail, it's just where we can train.
It's the benchmark.
Benchmark, yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
And that's not just when you're hiring somebody. If you're not doing any training at all, and now you're going to decide to do it because you see the value of it,
Right.
you got to benchmark the entire staff.
Right.
Because you got these guys, you got these techs that you think that they're great, and you're going to find out they really don't know low voltage. Or they really don't know how to do this, or they don't know how to do that. They don't understand drain cleaning. They don't understand physics. They don't understand all these things that you think they know. You assume that they know because they're not getting callbacks. To Billy Stevens' point, there's your efficiency.
Right.
When you take that person that doesn't know that and you ramp them up, game changer.
Yep.
Right?
Well, you know what they say when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. So
But I just want to go the what's in it for me aspect of things, right? And the ride-alongs that a person can do, or just getting to know somebody. And we've had some guests on the show where they have a couch in their office, literally just a couch. And you know what people do? They come in and lay on it. And they have a conversation, and you got to be okay with that. Mm-hmm. Go have a coffee. Go meet your tech somewhere in the field and say, hey, let's go have a coffee. And don't talk anything about work. When you have the ability to not talk about work and get to know them on an individual level, also take notes on that or write notes when you get back in your vehicle so you can remember that shit later. Mm-hmm. So that way when you have that conversation, you can ask them, hey, how are the kids? You remember the names, dogs, whatever, right? Now that builds that buy-in, right? It helps them with the buy-in. What are some other things that you guys see to be able to get this buy-in for the training aspect of things?
I'll go with one thing, then you can go. I think my advice to any entrepreneur, I don't care what business you're in, especially if you're a young entrepreneur, study up and test yourself on emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. It's a key thing that will help you communicate with that tech and build rapport and listen and learn how to talk to them. It'll improve your communication skills dramatically. That's a game changer. Yep. Right?
Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradberry.
It's a great book. Yeah, and there's a bazillion tests out there. Score yourself and see where you are. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, I probably have 100 reasons how to get techs engaged, but the one metric that we have that we track pretty well in our software is if the leaders are doing the training too. Like if you're a service manager and you're saying, well, I know everything, but you need this, that creates this weird dynamic. Like, say, look, I'm learning new stuff too. I've been doing it for 30 years and I'm learning stuff every day. Like, we're all in this training together. I think that's a spot that a lot of contractors miss.
Right, leaving the ego at the door, right?
Yeah.
And being okay to say that, like, I don't know, or I'm learning things too, or I'm engaged in this, or I'm learning this, because now you're human.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Powerful.
mind if I throw in an extra one here?
Yeah, 100%.
Have you read the book Giftology?
Heard it.
Heard of it? Fantastic book. Highly recommend it. The idea would be, how can we get their family to be our greatest salesperson?
Yeah.
So giving gifts that are going to impact the family, like a mattress, like a house cleaner, to the employees on your team. So now you're making an impact with them. And anytime that they ever complain about work, like, you're not fucking quitting this job.
Yeah.
We have a house cleaner now.
Yeah.
We've got a $5,000 mattress that we sleep on every night, so we have a better sleep and we feel rested every day, right? That kind of an impact is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
One thing we've seen too is how important paid time off is.
Yeah.
So we've seen people incentivize training by, look, if you do 8 hours of training, I'll give you 16 hours of PTO time.
Wow.
And that, you know what, they're going to train.
Absolutely.
Because that's more time with their family.
Yeah,
Yep.
incentivizing it, right? And that's that family aspect. And when you can build around the family and you can do what Evan's talking about, that goes back to one of the very first parts that you guys brought up is culture. When you create that culture, all this becomes irrelevant, really, because people just want to do it
Yep.
because they care about it. So we have something in our show called the Random Question Generator. I messaged our team to get a couple random questions here for you. So you don't actually get to know what the questions are, but we will start with yourself, Ken.
Here we go.
All right. Do you want question 1, 2, or 3?
Whatever.
All right. If you had to fight a celebrity, who would it be and why would you win?
I wouldn't win, but I would fight The Rock because I would learn from him.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
All right.
If you smell.
What happens when you touch Dwayne Johnson's butt?
I wouldn't do that.
You've hit rock bottom.
All right. Do you want question 1, 2, or 3?
I'll take one.
Take 1. What's your favorite dinosaur and why?
My favorite dinosaur.
Yeah, but they're absolutely random. That's the best part
gosh.
about it.
I think T-Rex because he's just the boss, man. He makes everything happen in the group. At least that's what they think. I don't know.
It says a lot about your personality.
He's got the short little arms too. Yeah.
Short little arms, he still makes things happen.
You know, he's like almost like the king of the dinosaurs, right? In my opinion.
Yeah.
So, all right. In terms of getting back here, you guys at Interplay have something phenomenal going on in leveraging training or technology rather when it comes to training. And I think that's a huge part for today's day and age, especially when we're starting to see what's coming out. I mean, go look at the AHR floor right now in all of the new technology that they're coming out with. And you know what? They're already working on things for next year's expo. They're going to be even bigger and better than the technology here. So what are you guys doing in terms of some of the unique technological aspects for training?
I'll go first. So what we do is we build simulation training. So picture a 3D environment like a lot of the video games you see out there. And we take a piece of equipment and then we build the back ends behind the scenes, all the mechanical and the electrical processes. So if I turn on a switch here, what happens here? So in this simulation, now I can simulate faults, I can simulate procedures. So I can create this safe environment in a virtual space, in a simulated space that techs can go in and learn a process without getting electrocuted before they go on the job, like a safe place to do it. So that's the bulk of what we do.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's different about the way we do it, we have video-based training and we have the simulations like Dan talks about. So the video-based is the what and the why. If I turn the pressure here, what's going to happen there, and so on and so forth. And the simulation side is the how. So that's a whole different element that you're arming the learner with when they go on site, because now they have a whole different room. They have a whole different perspective of what's going to happen when they get there. They see that they know this cadence of steps. They know about safety. They know that safety is a step. Like, this is something I need to do before I do the next thing. So that's the difference, is that they learn the how.
Right.
Right? And they can learn it as many times as they want. Like I said before, everybody learns a different way. You don't understand that yet? I just showed you it 4 times. Yet there's none of that happening. Right? It's safe. It's not just safe that you're teaching them safety and that you're not going to get shocked. It's safe that there's no human harm. Right?
Well, look at pilots. I have a friend who's flies the big boys over across the Pacific for Air Canada, and every time he's flown on a new plane, he spends hours upon hours, like weeks. They fly him out, and that's all he does is in the flight simulator. Yeah. And they just throw everything at you because you got to be ready for it, right? Even when you are still flying, you still go back and you still do simulations, and they still throw all these things at you, right? Because it's that safe space. And so you think about what can go wrong in a homeowner's house. Well, quite a bit if you mess that up, right? And it gives them that safe space. So I think it's really cool. When you look at some of the age demographic of technicians, and some of them might be resistant to technology, resistant to change. I mean, heck, some of them still use yellow pad technology, right?
Yeah.
How can you get them to have the buy-in to adapt into this technology? Because you're some of part of what you guys do is it's VR, right? And you're wearing I'm assuming the headset and doing it. Some people might balk at that idea.
Our program will run on a laptop, iPad, so they don't have to wear the headset. Right, so the younger ones we find they're a little bit more apt because they're gamers, right? So it's relative to them,
Right.
And they're just innate that when they put that headset on, they know exactly there's no instruction needed. And then you have the older one that wants to use a laptop or use an iPad. They're usually there, even though they might use that yellow pad. They understand principles of a desktop or a laptop or an iPad, and they can navigate through that simulation the same way. They're just not in the room like you are when you have a headset on.
Right.
And one thing we see that's super effective with getting more senior techs involved in training is we do group trainings, right? So have the senior tech go through the simulation and share his advice with the newer techs. So now you're creating this environment where you're actually letting the senior tech use our software and our graphics to share his knowledge, and now I have buy-in from my senior techs.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's a train the trainer, but we're providing the resource to the trainer. So
Right.
back to that point about journeymen and skilled techs are not educators. We're giving you the tool that's very simplistic to use to be able to train. And now you can add all the color to it, like don't do it when you get here, this is really hot. You're gonna burn your hand, or don't step there, or do this, or make sure when you lift this up, it's heavy. All that extra color can get added in by that skilled person that's shared with the younger techs.
Right.
It's empowerment is what it is, right? You're empowering them to be able to help train, and then the younger generation can empower them, help them with technology.
Yeah, symbiotic.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you've got a team of 10, 20, 30, 50 techs, it's really difficult to create that immersive training where everyone can see, everyone can hear when it's a physical piece of equipment in the room that they're trying to explain. Not everyone can see it. So this is allowing you to do that. Plus, I think of the cost effectiveness of this. To be able to bring in all the different pieces of equipment, especially if you're up in Massachusetts or something like that, where every home you go into has 4 different types of heating devices in the home, because they just kept adding onto the home and adding new equipment, and it's ridiculous up in the Northeast sometimes. But the ability for you to be able to change the equipment on the screen,
Yeah.
it's like that. And now we don't have to bring all these different pieces of equipment into the office and create a training room that has all of the different potential things that people are going to run into.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of trade schools are using our software now for that exact reason.
Right.
I'm a trade school. I can't have 25 pieces of equipment in my area. I only have this small area.
Right.
So we have some here, but we can simulate all of these other ones, and the trade schools love them.
When you swap out, right? That's the other part is you don't always have to be working on it. You don't always have to be doing the simulations. Well, now you've done the simulations and you've ran through some pretty egregious stuff that could happen on there, and you really test their skills, and then they go and they actually can touch and feel the physical unit too after, which is a powerful piece that goes along with it.
And that's one of the things I want to point out about simulation software is, we can't teach somebody how tight to make a screw.
Right.
We can't teach somebody the feel of what it is to put 2 wrenches and pull a pipe into a fitting. I can't teach somebody how tight to make a toilet bowl to a floor. That's the part that's still there for the on-job side. But we can teach every single thing that leads up to that spot.
Right.
Right? Whether it's simulation or video, we can get both sides of it.
Pitfalls. What do you think about some of the pitfalls that people might fall into when they're trying to leverage technology in their training and they're doing it the wrong way?
I think it goes back to how we really started it. That's if you show them how this is going to affect their lifestyle, you'll get the engagement. If you get engagement and you're using the proper training, it can only go forward, right? If you talk specifically technical, you have to have decent Wi-Fi. Let's be real, right? But you should have decent Wi-Fi if you have an office anyhow. And most techs are going to have decent Wi-Fi in their house. So that's like a no-brainer, but it happens. Like here, the Wi-Fi is really bad.
Yeah, it's like
really bad.
It's like a giant Faraday cage inside most of the spaces. You find a spot where your phone goes crazy. You're like, oh, got service.
Yes.
How much do you recommend that they do on their own time at home, like you said, versus mandatory in the office and setting aside that dedicated time while they're working?
Yeah, we were just talking about this morning, right? Like, I used to be a regional for Bosch and some of these major manufacturers, and I'd do that 5 o'clock training.
Right.
And in the afternoon, and the techs are in the back of the room with their arms crossed. They're like, man, I just want to get home to my family.
Yep.
So what I like to say is, if they want to train on their own time, like maybe Saturday mornings they have some free time, let them train, but pay them for it. Like, give them an hourly wage or something. Like, let them train when they want to train, but make sure that they're doing it every week.
Yeah, incentivizing is another whole side of the training side that you have to take into consideration. Dan and I have authored several articles on incentivizing them. But having something that's on demand, having the structure that, I'm going to trust you're going to get this done. I'm going to hold you accountable for it. I don't really care if you do it, come in 6:30 and do it here. You want to do it Saturday afternoon, just as long as it gets done. And I'm going to know if it gets done because I'm watching on the backside, right? And I'm also going to watch you in the field. I'm going to be paying attention to I'll know right away if you haven't trained. If a higher skilled tech, it watches you and observes you do a task and you can't do it right, I know that you're not training or you're not training enough.
Right.
Yeah. One of the other things about the VR side that's really critical that we do that I think Dan will vouch for is there's the learning capacity that goes through on the VR mode. It's in a learner mode, so everything is glowing. The learner knows what to touch. We show a video to navigate the simulation, and then when they take the assessment, that's all off.
Right.
So if you forget to lock something out, if you stick your hand in a panel, if you do anything unsafe, or you do the wrong step, or you set your electric meter at the wrong setting, amperage when you're checking voltage as an example, start over. So that's a validation that they understand the content. They just have fun and go through the motions. They really get it.
Right. Well, it's gamifying learning, right? And that's the thing that I love about it, that we do this in our organization as well. How can we make things fun and interactive?
And just to go to the piece about making sure that you compensate or have it built in, I got fired from a job. Well, technically, jury's still out. I don't know if I quit or if I got fired. I got backed into a corner, but he was trying to get us to do training, and I told him, like, well, you're not paying me extra time, and you're not giving me time at work to be able to do that, and I don't want to do it at home, so he's like, well, stay later. I'm like, okay, well, then pay me more. That's where he said no. And that's where it's kind of jury's still out if I got fired or if I quit on the spot. But it's a big thing to be able to give that to somebody who has the employee mindset, right? If you're a business owner, you just think, well, I'm just going to do what it takes to be able to run my business. Not everybody has that mindset. It's an employee mindset and putting yourself in their shoes, which is a powerful piece. So I do know that you guys got to go here in a couple minutes, but we have to. So thank you, first off, for taking the time to sit and chat with us here today at the AHR EXPO and making some time for it. Worked out perfect just before the expo opened, so you guys get back to your booth. But as we do wrap up, well, first off, where can somebody find your guys' information? Where can they get a hold of you should they want to reach out to you?
LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think we're both active on LinkedIn. That's the best spot.
Yeah.
Cool. And then obviously your guys' website is the other one, and we'll make sure to put that in the show notes after. We'll find your guys' LinkedIn profiles too to be able to put those in the show notes. But before we do go, we have one final question for each of you. So since, Ken, you took the random question this time, we'll go with Dan first on this one. What is one question that you wish people would ask you more but don't?
Oh, I don't know. I love to talk about building self-confidence in techs, and I don't think leaders in our industry, what's the right way to say this? Like they care about their employees, but do you really care enough to build their self-confidence, make them into a better person, grow as a person? Like, I love having those conversations, but it's spotty which managers care to that level.
Right. I mean, I would love to ask you that question, but I think that's a whole nother half an episode.
Well, it goes back to the emotional intelligence piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And when you know the EQ, I mean, that's the short answer, right? Is go look at emotional intelligence and get into that, because now when you have that, you can understand the different personalities and the different conversations you need to have, and just being aware of other people's emotions and having that empathetic response.
Yep.
Yep. Same question.
Oh, man. I would say instead of a question, can I make it a statement? Is the one that says, I'm not going to train my techs because they're just going to take the training and leave. I have so much ammo for that one. It's just
Right.
like, okay, well then don't train them and just let them make a mess. All get the callbacks, keep them coming, because that's what's going to happen, right? And that goes back to that culture thing. I mean, you got to convince that business owner that that's not the way it works.
Right.
Right.
If you're going to be that one-man operation and you're going to be 75 years old turning wrenches and not have anything to sell when you're done, knock yourself out. But if you want to grow, you got to get out of that. You got to stop that thought. The problem when you have that problem isn't about training. You need to look in the mirror. That's the problem.
Right. It's the abundance mindset.
Right. Well, it's the saying that I always come to mind when you hear that is, okay, what if I train my people and they leave? Okay, what if you don't train them and they stay?
Right.
That's a scary one.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary, right? And some people are like, well, it costs money. Well, yeah, put it in your budget.
Right.
Factor it in there and reverse engineer what you need to charge out for your jobs in order to be able to adequately train your team.
Sure.
And I mean, if you look at our industry and all the P roll-ups and these monster companies, guess what? They all have stellar training programs. Maybe that's a sign that it works.
Right? It's almost like you need to become a training organization first and a plumbing and heating business second.
That's right.
I agree.
Yeah. And when you do that, well, guess what? Everything else
grows.
becomes a lot easier and just rolls from there, right?
Training and recruiting. Number one role of the business owner.
So, perfect. Well, thank you guys for taking the time.
Thank you
Chad,
for having us.
we
It was
definitely
great.
enjoyed it. And until next time.
Cheers.
Peace.
Cheers.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.